Hey, we're back. The pack is back in OTAs, and we're back too. Oh, I forgot to look at this. Somehow our color got mixed up. Let me fix that for you real quick. Green and gold. Ben is old. Remember we used to start shows with me singing all the time? Wasn't that good? That was a good trend we had going for a while.
Nope, wasn't good.
We're back to do a show. Maybe some people will come back to us. I'm so sorry we left them for so long, but as stated in the show description, we had some things that required personal matters, required our attention. We've been contemplating retirement, but we're not beholden to anybody, and we're not holding anybody up, holding no one hostage. All the good things I said in our show description. Some good quotes there that I pulled from a genius person in the world.
Really?
Yeah, didn't you read that stuff?
No.
What the I wrote that for you. I learned it by watching you. And I wrote it for you.
Really?
Yeah, come on, man. Those are all great recent Aaron Rodgers quotes. And that's
God, come on.
That's called journalism, baby, where you quote people accurately instead of this BS that people do now, where they make shard up all the time. All right.
They do make stuff up. People make stuff up a lot.
A lot of people do. That's the power of social media. And everything else. And then people don't look at where they get their information from, and they don't know what's real and what's not. But what is real is what we tell you, because it's the truth. Factual, opinionated, but opinion based on fact, and we never BS you, unlike some other people.
That's true. There is zero BS.
I saw so many okay, here's what's going on with Jair, right? We got to talk about that. We got to talk about some other stuff.
Yep.
Jair Alexander, so many stories when this was uncertain, because the Packers were obviously trying to shop him around, getting no deals for him, no trades for him, nothing, no takers. So there was, over the past 3 weeks, there was a massive social media rebuild Jair Alexander's credibility, character campaign. Oh my God. So many things. And from all these, are they real? Dairyland, something or other, and Packer Joe #2 and whatever else, all these sources that are putting out these things. And Jai, you're such a great guy. He said he's going to be back and and all this stuff. And he's donated some money to something. Oh my gosh, he's willing to give up $4 million of his salary. What a generous guy.
None of that has been confirmed.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's all like this campaign to sort of rebuild him. Now, is it the Packers trying to rebuild him to make him look like he's a good guy to trade him, or is it his agent or whatever trying to make him look better so somebody will want to get him and pay him? We don't know, but none of it's true. We do know he's not at OTAs. We know that.
Yes, but that's not. He wants to be there. The Packers don't want him there. That's
exactly
the thing. So we don't have to.
We know he isn't there.
It's not an indictment on him as a. Well, it is, because of the team doesn't want him.
Yeah.
But it's more like, I just go back to the Jeff Hafley interview from a couple weeks ago, or whenever that was.
Yep.
They asked him about Jair, and he's like, yeah, I'm not here to talk about hypotheticals and this and that. And, we're talking about who's on the team and who I know is going to be there. So because he didn't know how to answer it, and he was just being honest for the longest time.
Right. He probably wasn't briefed on what's going on.
Well, he doesn't. Right. He doesn't know. But the bottom line is this: if he really, if Hafley felt comfortable enough that he wanted David, hey, what's up, David? That he wanted Jair back, he would come out and he would say, I don't know the situation at this point, but my experience with him last year has proven to be we know he's a player that's great, and we could use him on the team. And whatever the guys in charge of roster building have to do with it, then they can make the decisions. But blah blah blah. But he didn't give a opinion of positivity at all. If anything, what he said gave off I don't want to deal with that guy. I don't want to talk about that guy. And it goes all the way back to Keyshawn at the end of the year when he was like, I'm going to be number one QB. If I'm the number one cornerback, I should be whatever, respected, like I'm the number one cornerback or whatever the hell y'all said about being the number one cornerback. And we're all just like, number one cornerback, Keyshawn, you're not even what are you talking about here?
I was right with him. He was number one cornerback.
Okay.
Last year, 100%.
So the bottom line is the team tried to trade him. Goody wants to trade him. Nobody wants him, including the Packers. Because if they did want him, they would come out and say things like, oh, yeah, he's great. And, oh, yeah, we want him. No one is saying that. They're saying, we got to figure it out. Oh, we got to work it out. Oh, we got to all this kind of crap. And Goody did this to himself. Bottom line. Like, he gave the guy a gazillion dollars.
After an injury season.
After an injured season. And he gave Rasul Douglas nothing, right?
Yeah.
He gave Rasul a 3-year contract when the guy played like he was much better than that. And Jair, who played like nothing, gave him like he was the highest, greatest corner of all time, even though he isn't even close to even being the best Packer cornerback in the last, I don't know how many years. You can't even like, Rasul Douglas is better than him.
Yeah.
Tramon Williams is better than him.
Oh, yeah.
Charles Woodson better than him.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Shields better than him. Doug Evans better than him. I would almost go to say Craig Newsome better than him.
Whew.
And that's saying something right there. Because I would almost go Tyrone Williams. Better. Okay, I'm not going that far. But
if you go back a couple months, the numbers in production showed you Demarius Randall better than him.
Dumb Arias, yes. Even dumb Arias was better.
Yep.
Than Jair overhype Alexander. Like his middle name should be overhype. Because that's what they're doing. And now not only is that backfiring on Goody, now Elton Jenkins is all pissed because he watched them give some random guy from another team who is now their highest paid offensive lineman, who we knew when it happened, we were like, who is it? What is going on here? Why are we paying this guy all this money when we have Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, and Sean Ryan all coming up after this year on the offensive line, who are all proven guys who are good on the team right now. Like we know they're good. Why are we wasting money signing some random guy, giving him a 4-year deal worth all this money, which was making him the highest paid offensive lineman on the team? At Elton Jenkins' position. And then Elton Jenkins is all pissed. And he's like, I want more money. And it's like, no, because you don't deserve it. But neither does Banks. I don't think he deserves it either.
It's funny you went there because I didn't hear a lot of stuff, but then I saw, Matt LaFleur was talking. He said Edgerrin Cooper looks more explosive than he's ever seen him. Well, he's only seen him like 1 year, so whatever.
That's true. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, here's a good little bit. Let's pull up Matt LaFleur because I had him queued up for this one because the guy you were just talking about. Really interesting to hear what Matt LaFleur has to say about the number one one of the Packers' only big free agent signings, right? Because that's what they did. They were like, hey, we're not going to do too much here in free agency, but we'll sign this guy because we screwed up other drafts. So we went over that too, like how they messed it up. Again, that's in the past. Unfortunately, they won't have Quinn Miners and Landon Dickerson and all the guys they could have. So here's a little Matt LaFleur from talking about this guy. He was asked about him, and it was a softball from Mike Spofford, the Packers.
Oh, well, then
propaganda master. Yes, just wait, but watch Matt LaFleur.
Matt, what are your early impressions of Aaron Banks and just what you think he can do for your offense?
Yeah, he's a pretty big guy out there, and I think he's played a lot of football, so. And there was a lot of similarities in regards to the scheme from where he came from to what we do. And so I think he provides us with, obviously we know what he's capable of doing, but it also provided a lot of flexibility with everybody else around him.
Hey man, where do you think improvement in the pass rush?
That's it. That's the whole answer from.
So, okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, he looks
He
pretty
said-
big out there.
He's pretty big out there. He provides us with flexibility from everybody else around him. That makes no sense. He doesn't provide any flexibility. He's a left guard.
Exactly.
Like, you're lucky that Elton Jenkins can move to center. You're lucky that Zach Tom can play anywhere on the offensive line if need be. You're lucky that Jordan Morgan is really bad at guard and tackle, but you still will play him at both spots. That's why you're lucky. Banks has nothing to do with that. He didn't let those guys have the ability to go any moving people around and whatever the hell it is. It's obvious LaFleur doesn't know what to say about it because it was dumb. You lost your starting center, and then you signed a guy at the same position who was at the highest paid on your offensive line. The other guy. Your highest paid guy on the offensive line before you signed Banks was your left guard. Then you paid more money to another left guard.
Shh, don't say that out loud. It sounds really dumb.
It doesn't make any sense. And we talked about it when it happened. It made no sense. And now it's backfiring big time because Elton Jenkins is like, what the crap? But it comes back to a couple different things that are proven and are the problems with not just the Packers, with almost every NFL team, is the fact that you have, but especially the Packers, when they have a high draft pick, first round, second round, to a fault, whether the player is actually good or not, they pay him as if he is a top of the line player. And then when that guy either A, gets hurt, doesn't play ever, B, never actually develops into what they thought he was because he had one season of sort of being good or 8 games of being good in Jordan Love's case. Now those players are taking up all this cap space and you're not getting the return of your investment because they don't produce at the level that they need to when they're being paid that highly. And they're only lucky that they have guys on the team who are in their rookie contracts who are producing and making plays. And that's the only reason why they're lucky. And it goes all the way back to even David Bakhtiari, who was the guy who made a whole bunch of money doing nothing. And you could say, well, it's injuries. Okay. And Jair, injuries. Okay. But I listened to, I think it was Chris Sims this week. He had Devin McCourty on.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it was a defensive player because he was going over some of his favorite defensive players in the league, Devin McCourty. And they said that one of the guys is one of the highest paid corners or something. And then he talked about when he was with the Patriots, and he was like, at one point I was the highest paid safety in the league. And what happened was we ended up getting, I can't remember, another player that they signed in the free agency or whatever to be the other safety on the team. And he was like, but he wasn't as, he wasn't as good or able to adjust and do multiple things. He was kind of just a one-trick pony kind of guy where he was really good at that one thing, but that's what he did. And he said, because of that, Bill Belichick came up to me and said, "Hey, you're the highest paid guy at safety in the league. You're one of the highest paid players on the team. You're responsible for being able to adjust and be on the field and play hurt, not injured. You can't play if you're injured, but you can play if you're hurt."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and Bill Belichick, forced me to, sometimes I wasn't always in the position that maybe in my best play, at my top playing, because I had to move around a little bit more, playing the free safety role and then coming in the box and coming back and doing other different things. But because I was one of the highest paid guys, it was expected of me to impact the team at another level because I was a veteran making all that money. And you compare that, of course, a Super Bowl winning team with one of the all-time greatest coaches of all time. Compare that to Jair Alexander, who couldn't get on the field because, I don't know, he hurt himself sort of at the end of the game and gave up a touchdown. I can't remember what game that was. Remember? He just kind of pulled up and just like, and then the guy caught a touchdown over the top of him. I think it was a Jaguars game, or I don't remember what game it was.
Yeah.
And then he came back and played 10 plays against the Bears and took himself out. And then he didn't play the rest of the year. But he's paid to be the leader of the team. He's paid to be able to adjust. Like if we needed him to go into the slot and play the slot or play outside corner or whatever it is, based on whoever we have on the team, when you're a high-paid guy, you're that much more responsible to impact the team because we are expecting you to impact the team because of the contract you have. Same thing with Elton Jenkins. Same thing with Jordan Love. Same thing with Kenny Clark. Same thing with Rashawn Gary. These guys who are top of the market at their position need to impact this top of the market at their position. Problem is none of them are, and none of them do. And there comes a time where you just cut your losses and you say, okay, you know what? That's the way it is. They finally did with Bakhtiari in the last year of the contract. They still gave him a crap ton of money for nothing.
Yep.
And with Jair, you have a chance to get out of it, save some cap space now. Just let it go. He doesn't help the team. He doesn't impact the team in a positive way. He isn't out there making plays or adjusting to help this team because of what his high profile pay and particular leadership, I guess, position on the team. He has no impact. If anything, it's a detriment. And that's why a good coach like Jeff Hafley, when asked about Jair Alexander, has no comment. Because like Mom always said, if you don't have something nice to say about somebody, don't say anything at all. And Jeff Hafley follows that rule. So there you go.
That's fair. I will say this. I have a tiny bit of hope that a team who has done it before to bail out the Packers out of a bad situation might do it again. The Sporting News, this is not happening yet. This is a trade pitch that Mike Moratis wrote about, saying that the Las Vegas Raiders might be a possible trade partner to take Jair Alexander off the Packers' hands. Would they do it? Would they take a problem guy who doesn't want to be on the team anyway, and the team doesn't really want him, just like Devontae Adams? Oh, wait. Would they pay? Would they do it? Would the Raiders help us out again, Raider Rick?
I don't know. I mean, it's possible.
I think they're the only team left that might, right?
Well, them or the Jaguars or the Browns. Like, it's always the dumbest teams that'll do it. But that, or the Jets. But I don't think the Jets aren't going to do a trade with the Packers in a long time after the debacle.
They got burned so bad.
But like, those are the teams that'll usually do the dumb thing and help you out. Those three teams there: Jets, Jaguars, Raiders, Browns. 4 teams, I guess. Like, look at what the Houston Texans got out of that deal.
Yeah.
I mean, they got so many good high draft picks because the Browns are idiots, right? Packers, Jets with it. They fleeced the Raiders with the Devontae Adams trade. Then they go and fleece the Jets with the Aaron Rodgers trade. And then the Jaguars are always up for something stupid. I mean, they signed. You name an ex-Packer who wasn't ever anything. He went to go be a Jaguar next if he wasn't a Viking, right? Josiah DeGuara.
Oh,
Frickin'. What's our guy?
Savage.
Savage, but also the linebacker. Didn't he go there too? 44, the White Lightning linebacker.
Oh,
can't
really?
remember his name. I think he went to
did?
the Jaguars too. Yeah.
Oh.
What's his name?
I'm blanking on him now.
Oh my God. How can we
I
forget
don't
his name? Number 44.
Yeah,
He
we're
actually had a
fans.
couple good plays.
Tyler,
Yeah.
is it Tyler?
Ty Summers. Thank you.
Ty Summers.
He went to the Jags too. So like the Jags will sign former Packers who should have been good, but then they weren't ever. So we know they're up for some dumb. And then like the Packers, when they had who was the guy from Green Bay who the Packers drafted in like the late round, and then they were like offensive linemen, and they're like, well, we're not going to keep him on the team. Let's see if we can find a dumb team that could trade us like a 6th round pick, even though we're definitely going to just cut the guy. Oh yeah, the Jaguars will do it. Remember when they traded him to the Jaguars? Van something or other. He was offensive lineman. It was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Cole Van Lannon, Wisconsin guy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's from Green Bay. He's from Eswabadan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get traded to the Jaguars. Packers are going to cut him, and then the Jaguars, and Goody just called the Jaguars. Like, hey, we got this guy who's not going to make our team, and we're going to cut him anyways. But you want to trade us a 6th-round pick? And they're like, okay. So then they did. So that's all you got to do is find a dumb team, and they'll do it for you.
Oh man. Okay. Well, we don't know what's going to happen with that. All we can do, hope, is that maybe the Packers get something out of it. But if not, if nobody wants to do it, it's post June 1. It is time. Just like the late, great Kevin Green said, it is time.
I actually wish they would have done it before June 1st because they have plenty of cap space. By doing it after June 1st, it actually hurts them a little bit. I mean, it gives them more cap space for this year, which they don't even need. But now it chews up a little bit of cap space in next year's salary cap because now that Jair money is going to be split in half,
Yeah.
So it gives us more space for this year that they're not going to use.
Maybe they will.
Yeah. Well,
there's one move.
They could by extending some guys like Zach Tom. They could use that to help extend Zach Tom, put the money in this year.
Why are they not paying Zach Tom? Like, what has happened?
I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. It should happen before the season starts. Like, let's go, Goody. Let's go.
Just because he wasn't a high enough pick, we're not going to lock him down. We're going to wait. Like, wait, and maybe as long as he makes it through this year with not a serious injury, then we'll sign him. But if he gets a serious injury, then we'll be like, meh, I don't get it.
Well, they screwed up by signing Banks, like I said. Like, because now Zach Tom's got to get paid more than that guy. Yeah. That guy's the interior offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Tom is a tackle and one of the top 5 tackles in the league, especially at right tackle.
Doesn't miss time. He's there for you. He plays well. He's versatile. Plays pretty damn good against power guys or speed guys, whatever. He's just a good, solid dude who's you're lucky to have. So lock him up. I don't get it.
Well, I think that the signing of Banks complicated it. And now it complicates the Elton Jenkins thing because Elton Jenkins has 2 more years in his contract, but none of the money on that contract is guaranteed for next year or the year after. So 2026, 2027. So his contract runs till 2027. Okay. And there will be salary cap hits based on the guaranteed money that he's already gotten, right?
Sure.
So if they let him go, he'll be some of his money will still be on the salary cap, but the guarantees are gone for him. So he is not going to see any more money after this season from the Packers, like actual money in his pocket. He's already seen the money. The cap hit will be there against the Packers cap, but Jenkins will not get the money. And that's why he is holding out now. Because he's like, wait a minute, you guys could do the same thing to me that you're trying to do to Jair right now, which is, treat him like dog crap and try to get him out of town. So it's a big, hairy mess that Goody put himself in. And I don't, the bottom line is we can talk about all this stuff because it's off season and we can talk. And a lot of people are like, oh, Goody would never be dumb enough to do this or not dumb enough to do that. And it's like, yeah, he would. He'd be dumb enough to do all those things. Like, what do you think? Do you think he's dumb enough to sign back Jair at or not sign him back? I mean, he's already on contract, but I mean, like restructure him and have him be that kind of, like, don't these guys know what he is by now? Don't they he's a cancer on the field and off the field?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you not know this? Like, there should be they should not even the only reason why I'm hoping they're only trying to say nice things or try to say, oh yeah, is because they're trying to get some sort of trade partner, but it's never going to happen. No other team wants him at the price he's being paid because he's not worth it. So no other team is going to trade for that.
Mm-hmm. They're going to want a fresh start and an incentive-laden contract or one that makes him earn it or work for it.
Yeah.
So he's motivated to earn more money. But he's clearly not motivated by much because that's been my biggest issue with the guy from the start. Thought he was so great, and I knew he was going to want top dollar, and he thinks he's great even when he's not playing well. He thinks he's great, and I understand you got to have confidence and all this sort of stuff. But there's a difference between being confident and being delusional. He's delusional. And then on top of it, you take away the lack of or you add the lack of availability, and it's a major issue. It's a major issue. And the distractions for the locker room and the distractions for the coaching staff, and not to mention a guy who was a first round pick that you invested big money in, that's been on your team for 7 years. That guy should be a leader of your team. He should be a leader of your team. And he is clearly not any sort of leader for even the cornerback group, not a leader for anybody. He's only a leader for himself. And his motivations are to make money. And I don't know what else. I don't know what his other motivations are. He's clearly not that concerned about winning. He's clearly not that concerned about playing. Get rid of him. Make him go away. They should. You're absolutely right. By now, there shouldn't be some other, like, it's a reclamation project. We hope, he's going to now, get past the injuries and he's going to be a good guy and he's turning his attitude around. He's going to be about the team. He's proven to you none of that is happening, and that's what he's going to be. So it's time. It is time. Make him go away. Eckes is here. Eckes, we got some good news for you. Look at this. He jumped on. Eckes, did you hear this? It's breaking news. Breaking news, Ben.
What's that?
I'm going to read right from it. Former Packers captain just hinted at a potential Green Bay return on Up and Adams with Kay Adams, who's made a little nice little side gig for herself after leaving the NFL Network morning show, right? Kay Adams built her presence there, and now she's got her podcast and does stuff. Well, yeah. Mercedes Lewis on Talking to Kay Adams just recently talked about a few things. This is going to be, he says he's playing one more season. This is his last season, his 20th year. Guy's 41 years old. Going to finish his 20th year in the league as a tight end, and really hasn't missed many games or missed much time, had any significant injury. That's pretty remarkable in of itself. He's a good dude. We always appreciated him as he was forced into a major leadership role when he was on the Packers because they were lacking leadership with the quarterback they had and other players they had at the time. So he was a very good leader for them. He was an okay blocker at times, overly hyped there, and didn't do much else in other things. Well, he had recently, when asked about what he might do for his last season and all that sort of stuff, he said he had already FaceTimed head coach Matt LaFleur, talking about the possibility of coming back to Green Bay for his 20th and final season in the NFL. Some speculate that it makes sense to bring in a veteran to help a young roster, which he could certainly provide leadership. But LaFleur did tell Lewis it was out of his hands, leaving a possible return in question. And then Mercedes noted, quote, "I feel like it ended a little too soon," speaking of leaving the Packers. So he wants to come back. He's clearly not a pass-catching threat. He could potentially be a blocking help, but then he takes up a roster spot, and he's a 41-year-old guy who's only going to play one more year. Do you think the Packers make that move?
Do I think that?
Yeah.
No.
You don't think Brian Gutekunst is going to make that move? I don't. Yeah. Okay.
He's not that stupid. Well, he is. He is. But he clearly stated last season, or not even last season, 2 years ago.
Eckes says no, the roster spot too.
When everybody kept saying, and Jason Wilde was the one speaking the loudest, we got to get Mercedes Lewis back. We got to get Mercedes Lewis back. He could be like a coach out there for these young rookie tight ends and Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Well, at that time, everybody was like, Luke Musgrave. And I don't want Tucker Kraft. But Luke Musgrave can really learn stuff. Luke Musgrave. Even though we all knew Tucker Kraft was the better tight end. You and I said it on the draft night, but that's besides the point. And, of course, we are correct. But Goody was like, no. We have young guys who we drafted, and they need to be in the field so they can learn stuff. And some old washed-up guy is not going to be on the team because Aaron Rodgers is gone, so I no longer have to put his old washed-up buddies on the team anymore. So there is no... And Matt LaFleur wanted him. And Goody said, no. So because Mercedes Lewis is a great guy, and he's like, I'm a great guy. Can I play? Can I be a tight end who plays for 20 seasons in the NFL? No. Nobody wants you. You're too old. He's literally useless.
He said he still played over 30% of the snaps, last year for the Bears.
Okay, and the Bears sucked.
Yeah. But if he played over 30% of the snaps for the Bears, stands to reason maybe he could play over 30% of the snaps for the Packers. Because, Musgrave is going to be hurt for a while. Plus, he can't do much else. They don't really put much into Ben Sims, even though I think he's all right. And who else they got?
It doesn't make any. But the problem is this: Mercedes Lewis does not threaten you as a pass catcher. The only thing he's maybe okay with, and I don't really think he's that good, but of course Andy Herman and other people keep saying how great he is his run blocking, apparently. And if you're going to put him out there, I would just put, Jordan Morgan out there. Put your 6 tight offensive linemen out there to play tight end in a running, obvious rushing play. Why put some guy who's freaking 30 years old or 40 years old, or however old he is.
41
years old who can't move, And everybody's like, oh, he's such a great run blocker. And I'm like, I bet you he's not as good as, having an offensive lineman out there who's another, 50 pounds heavier than he is and can get off the ball and move just as quick because he's, 20 years younger than he is and has agility and speed, which no longer... like if you lined up Jordan Morgan and Mercedes Lewis in a race, I'm pretty sure Jordan Morgan would win. So there is no use for him on the team. And Goody proved he wouldn't do it 2 years ago. So there's no way he's going to have him. I mean, when you have a guy like Rasul Douglas who's still out there and not on a team, like that's appalling to me. Now, the biggest Rasul Douglas fan on the earth, did say after watching some games last year that I saw Rasul take some plays off and was not as impactful as he has been in the past. And apparently other teams have seen that as well, and nobody has signed him yet. So that makes sense. I think it's a little ridiculous that it's gone this far and nobody signed him, because I think he's definitely worth a roster spot on just about every team in the league. From a leadership standpoint, from a cornerback standpoint, even if he's like the third corner, or like he comes in on dime situations to play outside corner, or if he plays like a free safety role, as a veteran smart guy who shows up in dime packages to play a free safety role back there, and then the other safety comes down and plays more of a nickelback type role. His awareness and his ability to make plays on the ball in the secondary is worth something, and he's not on a team.
Yeah,
that's worth way more than Mercedes Lewis would be, and no team wants Rasul Douglas either.
It is weird. It is weird that someone hasn't, and I don't know if I don't know if anyone's approached the subject with him or whatever about switching to safety, but I mean, it's weird that no one has seen that, especially at his size. I mean, the guy's he's like 209 pounds, almost 210 pounds, 6'2", almost 210. Like, that's a decent sized safety. We know he's a good tackler. He's always been a good tackler. His ball skills, his awareness, like that's a safety that you would love to have. And plenty of other guys who were corners as they got a little older switched to safety and were very successful at it. So I don't know how no one's put that together and thought there could be value there, or at least an attempt, because there's plenty of safeties who are not good who are starting in the NFL.
Yeah.
So it's weird to me. Hey, so I don't think it's going to happen either. I really don't.
I don't see it.
Right.
Goody won't do it.
Right.
He's already told Matt LaFleur no 2 years ago. It's not going to happen.
Right. That's got to be an interesting dynamic between those two now, because there's been definitely some things that LaFleur liked and wanted and all kinds of stuff, and Goody has gone in different directions, and I don't know what their actual relationship is like. I don't think it's certainly as rosy as it was early on in their tenures, but that's
Well,
part
I
of
think
part of the gig.
it's very interesting how we heard Goody say before the draft that he does not draft players to fit the coach's scheme, which was the dumbest thing I've ever heard when he said that. But he did say that. But not only that, if you add Banks, and then I think his name is Belton, right? The guy from the second round, are humongous offensive linemen. They're 330-pound offensive linemen. Like, they've become the two biggest offensive linemen on the team by far. Like, the Packers haven't had a guy that big for a long time, since Earl to Pearl or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, as far as a big honking monster. And is that LaFleur who wants that because they want to be a little tougher on the running game and be able to like hold up against tough defensive linemen like the Eagles? Because they're going to have to play them in the playoffs and also in the season this year. Is that LaFleur's calling, or is that Goody deciding to go bigger? Like, I'm assuming they're working together to make that change, to have these really big guys on the offensive line moving forward. Even Sean Ryan is like small compared to those two guys. And Sean Ryan is like a monster. So it's a big change, really.
Yeah.
From Zach Tom type guys who are quick and agile and little undersized, but can really do just about anything, to the fact that now they got these two guys that they signed in free agency and then drafted in the second round who are just big honking monsters. So it's a very different philosophy. So is that LaFleur asking for that? It's a change from Goody's draft strategy. It's a lot different than Elton Jenkins and all these other guys. It's a little closer to Josh Myers, because he was a big center. Because most centers are more agile and, like Scotty Wells was, like a guy who can do anything. He's not going to overpower you, or like Lucas Patrick, right? Guys who can do stuff like that. Where Josh Myers was a big 6'6", 300+ pound guy who, with bad knees, who looked like a grandma when he fell down and tried to get back up again. It took him 5 years to get back up off the ground when he fell down, right? That's not the type of guy we want. But that's the change, is now these bigger guys but they do have some sort of, not aggression, but like agility to their game. They're not just big guys. They are athletic, more athletic than Josh Myers, I think, which is good.
Well, I guess says Butter just moved to Texas, and Earl Dotson lives a couple of blocks from him.
Earl the Pearl! Earl the Pearl was the man.
He was pretty good. He was pretty big, too.
He was.
Well, here's the other big... okay, first off, we'll lead into it. This will lead us into maybe the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight, which I know is a pipe dream and all that good stuff, but whatever. Anyway. All right, so Matt LaFleur, let's bring him back on. Because he had more to... I didn't get through the whole thing, but this was right after, and I think it was interesting to hear this question because it's a question that's been burning for all of us. I think Matt LaFleur is a little worn down here on this press conference. So? He didn't seem too excitable. But here's another question that came right after his really exciting and dynamic answer to the Aaron Banks question. He was asked this.
Well, I think just some of the stuff that we've been talking over, I think the guys have a really good understanding of when we do rush for what everybody's responsibility is. I think that we're going to be a little cleaner in our rush lanes and not allowing big gaps up front to allow, whether it's quarterbacks stepping up or scrambling.
He was asked, just to clarify, because I realized I didn't get that up right away. He was asked, hey, Matt, where do you think improvement in the pass rush comes from this year? Basically, because, you didn't really do much to change what you currently had. So how does it get better? And then this was his response.
As far as I can tell, the communication's been great. I think DC's done a great job. I was just talking to Kenny Clark about it, as a matter of fact, earlier today, and just in terms of the technique, the level of detail at which he coaches, his ability to communicate, his ability to bring great energy to that room. So I'm looking forward to it, but ultimately there's a long way to go between now and then, and our guys got to continue to dig at all the little details of everything that we're trying to teach them.
Okay. So a couple of just observations, questions, points to explore off of that. One, generally, okay, if you have a pass rush plan and you have like discipline and pass lanes and stuff like that you're supposed to do, players who are talented enough and good enough will be able to rush within that plan and still be effective.
Yeah.
So the Packers guys get out of their lanes because they're not effective enough. So they're trying to extend the direction they're going or try to get further outside or go further this way because they're trying to find a way to beat the guy in front of them, but they can't do it the way they're supposed to within the context of the defense. And so they become very undisciplined. Then we have quarterbacks that run all over the place on us. That's one bit observation. The other one I thought was funny was Kenny Clark was getting taught some technique, man, this year, I guess.
Don't get me started, Kenny Clark.
Maybe he's gonna be awesome this year after getting coached with some technique.
I was just going to bring up one more thing that from the not Jason Devin from Devin McCourty,
Okay.
who was on Chris Sims. He also talked about they were talking about pass rushers, same type of thing. And he did talk about there were times where I think it was Michael Bennett who the Patriots signed him away from the Seahawks. I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there and because Bill Belichick thought he was amazing and he wanted to play him at D tackle because he was like getting later on in his years.
Mm-hmm.
And he played so well at D tackle, he wanted to keep him there. But Michael Bennett only wanted to play outside. And not only that, Devin McCourty said not just Michael Bennett, but other players, when their pass rushing is they were talking about, I can't remember who they were talking about. They were talking about another guy, but this is holding the whole pass rushing discussion that they had today, or Wednesday, whatever day the show was on. But they said about how these pass rushers have this incredible ability. They get a pressure, right? And that looks great for the PFF grade. But if they don't work together as a unit on the whole D line, then that pressure actually left a hole because the guy next to him is not as good as them, right? Who doesn't get the pressure. And then they leave that big hole for the quarterback to step up in the pocket or escape and move the chains or whatever it is. But that PFF grade looks good because they got a pressure. But according to the actual defense that was called, it was actually the dumbest thing in the world.
Sure, we've seen that.
And then when they talked about Michael Bennett and how he told Bill Belichick that he only wanted to play at defensive end instead of at deep tackle. And Bill Belichick was talking to Devin McCourty. He's like, Bennett, he's so damn good. He's like, he's such a monster in the inside. He's like, I need him to play inside, but he won't do it. He won't do it. And then Chris Sims was like, well, he eventually did, right? And he's like, no, we traded him. Bill traded him. He wouldn't do what he wanted, and Bill traded him right away. Like they signed him in the offseason, and then when we wouldn't do what Bill Belichick wanted him to do, he got him out of town. Wow. So you're telling me a guy who won 6 freaking Super Bowls, when a guy didn't do what he told him to do, after he just signed him to a big contract, he traded his ass out of town? And we got guys who are making themselves captains. We got a guy who we want to move him to center and he doesn't want to show up. We got guys who just do whatever they want and they don't want to follow the rules. And then what do? We suspend him for a game and then he comes back. And then last year he gets hurt and doesn't play all year. That's the difference between a guy who won 6 Super Bowls and a team that won 6 Super Bowls and a team that can't get over the hump. Matt LaFleur has gotten to the NFC Championship game quite a few times already. Matt LaFleur has gotten to the playoffs a whole bunch of times. Now, Aaron Rodgers was a detriment in the playoffs. We all know this. He is the type of guy who can beat the bad teams. And then when he plays a good team, he won't push the pace. He won't take chances because he doesn't want to have his numbers look bad. That all happened in the playoffs. We all know these things. And it hurt Matt LaFleur in those games, as well as the special teams, which was a disaster because Goody never, ever decided to fulfill the roster with good players on special teams. He would just use young guys and throw them out there and they'd suck. Now, finally, they actually signed guys like Isaiah Simmons, who's a guy I wanted to sign 2 years ago when he was out in the free agent. Remember, I mentioned him 2 years ago. I was like, I don't know if he's any good. I just know he's a monster, like a physical freak who can impact plays, especially on special teams. And you could find a role for him on your team to do something crazy.
Sure.
Same thing. Like last year, I wanted him to sign Jeremy Chin.
Right.
No, not Jeremy Chin. Yeah, it was Jeremy Chin, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Jeremy Chin. I wanted to sign him, who was he was at the Panthers, right? And he went and signed with the Washington. Yep. And then now he's got a big free agent contract with another team because he played awesome. And we signed, who do we got? Oh, yeah, what's his face? McKinney, who everybody says is the greatest thing of all time, who we paid way more money for. And he had a bunch of picks at the beginning of the year that they just threw to him. And then he disappeared for like the whole rest of the year.
Yep. Because
he's not nearly as good as everybody says he is. But we're not going to get into that. But what I would say is this. The pass rush is based on the guys up front have to work together, right?
Yeah.
There has to be a plan. And when guys can't get pressure, and you can't, like we've seen it. We've seen it with our guy, Devontae Wyatt, right?
Mm-hmm.
He makes a crazy move, and he'll destroy the guy in front of him, and he'll get in the backfield. And then if he doesn't get the sack, we're screwed. Because nobody else got back there and did anything. So, yeah, it was awesome that he looked amazing for one play. But if you didn't get that sack, you didn't impact the play, you just messed it up because the other guys aren't doing anything. And they're not pass rushing together as a unit to like make things happen. And that's the type of stuff that I don't know what the best move is. Last year when the Packers had good games, everybody talks about their 8 sacks against whatever the Tennessee Titans.
Tennessee, yeah.
That's because their offensive line was bad. Sacks don't come in bunches, guys. I know it's that they've been saying for years, the Packer reporters and the coaches. Well, sacks, they come in bunches. No, the sacks come because you're playing against bad players. That's why they come
in bunches.
Yeah,
that's why they come in bunches.
It's not that they all of a sudden figured it out one game and then they forgot what they learned. No, the players against them were bad.
Absolutely not. I guess we don't want Za'Darius back.
So what? Come on, Eckes, what is going on? What is with this? Is Eckes trying to get all the Aaron Rodgers guys? You want to get Aaron Rodgers back too? He's out there. You want to get him there? Eckes, what the hell, man?
Eckes wants him back to retire as a Packer.
Should we get Randall Cobb back too right away? He's out there.
Randall Cobb. He hasn't retired yet, for real?
I don't know. Maybe he has.
I hope so.
Who knows?
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not.
Mason and Crosby retired and nobody cared.
What?
It's almost like Morgan Burnett. Remember when Morgan Burnett came back and signed the one-day contract to retire as a Packer?
Mason is the all-time leading scorer for the Packers. Don't say nobody cared.
Yeah, and he's not even nearly the best kicker in the Packers history.
All-time leading scorer for the Packers.
Chris Jackie better.
All-time leading scorer.
Jan Stenerud better.
Packers.
Ryan Longwell better.
The most exciting kicker the Packers have ever had.
Jake Kummerow, better. Not a kicker,
back.
But better receiver than Mason Crosby was as a kicker.
Come on, wow. Mason kept you.
I'm messing that.
That is bad. You know that Mason was reliable for many, many years, and he was the most exciting kicker because half the time you didn't know if the ball was going to weave back in or was going to weave back out.
We didn't know. We didn't know. But last year when they had pressure in the later games and they changed their strategy, it was because of simulated pressures from Edgerrin Cooper and like Xavier McKinney and a couple other guys that are blitzing and trying to get there. And that's how they got the pressure. It wasn't from the defensive linemen. Now, the 2 guys they drafted this year in the 4th and 5th round, one of them, the 5th round guy is supposed to be like a Nick Benito type guy, the guy who's with Denver, who's like just, undersized, but hair on fire type, get to the quarterback type guy. He's not going to be great against stopping the run, but he could be an impact player on special teams and a situational pass rusher, which we have not had on the team in a long time. A 245-pound, 250-pound, Clay Matthews type guy, right? Now, he's not Clay Matthews, obviously, because Clay Matthews could do all things. This guy is just mostly a pass rusher guy. And his technique's not that great, but he's got speed and hustle, which is good. Like he never gives up on plays based on what I've heard them say. And then Baron Searle is more of a Kingsley Enagbare type guy who's hopefully better than Kingsley Enagbare is, because I think Kingsley Enagbare is going to be gone. I think that's not enough spots left. Last year they kept 6 guys at the defensive end on the team, which was dumb. Like I don't like, you don't need 6 guys at defensive end on the team. Right. And we also we need what's his face to step up. First round pick from the Aaron Rodgers trade. What's his name? I can't remember his damn name.
Lucas Van Ness.
Yeah, Van Ness. He's got to become something already. Let's go, Goody. Another first round pick. What the is this guy? You traded up 2 spots so you could get this one guy. We all thought it was because they wanted an offensive lineman to cover for David Bakhtiari, which they didn't do. They drafted this guy who they already had a bunch of guys on the defensive end, but they drafted another defensive end. But so I don't know.
Rasputin called us right away to tell us
He
how
did.
great of a pick it was, and now we got this amazing player, and you're like, what?
Well, I mean, he could have been an amazing player. I don't know.
Come on, man. All I know is Lucas Van Ness runs hard. He hustles. He'll pursue. I like all that about him. He's decent against the run, but he just doesn't win. He just doesn't win on the pass rush. He doesn't overpower guys. He's not big enough and strong enough to like overpower guys, and he's not fast enough to get around them. So most of the time he just doesn't win.
Yeah.
That's not a number 13 pick. A number 13 pick should win a lot, and he doesn't. So the thing I like about Baron Sorrell is that, he's going to work his butt off, and, he cares about it. Obviously. Yeah. I just said we're going to have the two, like if him and Rashawn Gary are both on the field at the same time, we'll have the most crying defensive ends of any defensive ends in the whole league. The most emotional guys, which I love their emotion.
Well, hopefully this new defensive line coach, like you said, will make the difference for a lot of these guys. Like even not just the young guys, but Kenny Clark too. Maybe Jerry Montgomery wasn't great. Wasn't a good coach.
Kenny will finally reach his potential.
I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, it's interesting because it's a big move. Like, and Goody obviously thinks the players are not the problem.
Yeah, he thinks he's given them enough.
He thinks the players are good. Yeah, and so now that it's the coaches that they've changed, who now have to impact the game. And we also lost our inside linebacker coach, who now is a defense coordinator somewhere and he was great. He helped Edgerrin Cooper look good. So I don't know what the new inside linebacker coach is going to do. Hopefully he's good, hopefully. Obviously way better than the guy we had before, that old Czech guy. That guy stunk. But I think that'll be an impact, Hopefully they learned enough from that guy last year, like Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker, that it'll help them improve because they already got the stuff. This new coach will just teach them new stuff that can add on to the stuff they already learned last year from that coach. But I don't know. So the defense is. I'm less worried. I'm not worried about the defense because of Jeff Hafley. Like, I love Jeff Hafley. I really do. I think he's freaking. I wish he was the head coach of this team. It'd make me way happier. But LaFleur's the coach, so whatever.
But you did say, and we've all heard it, and people have asked about it, and we speculated. We thought there'd be some moves that would improve, especially after Goody publicly said we got to win with 4. We got to affect the quarterback with 4. Everybody's talking about doing it with 4. Okay. Now, nothing was really done except Goody's hope plan of these guys are just going to be better. They're going to get better. The guys I drafted will be better.
Just like the wide receiver plan last year. Yep. Mm-hmm. Which did not work.
Yep. And you mentioned the Packers have a lot of cap space. And we know a Wisconsin guy is unhappy where he's at.
Oh, dude.
I mean, that is could be the magic move. And the Packers have the capability of doing it. And every Packer fan who's pissed off and disgruntled and mad and upset and whatever, you'd bring them all back by this one. Like, it makes so much business sense on top of on the field sense, right? Like the fan base would be super energized and like totally behind this team that they're kind of been back and forth on lately and disappointed by a lot in the playoffs. So why wouldn't you make a big move? Do it, pursue it. Like what is holding them? What is holding them back from this? Because the Steelers are dragging their feet. If they're dragging their feet, freaking make them an offer they can't refuse.
Well, I mean, they did. The other thing is you could throw in a Romeo Dobbs or a
Mhm.
receiver as part of this too, not just the draft pick.
Could throw in Lucas Van
Because
Ness too while you're at it, like we said before.
no, I think we can keep Lucas Van Ness. I think we need to keep Lucas Van Ness. But
What? If we get TJ Watt, we didn't need no Lucas Van Ness anywhere.
but you got to remember, the Steelers helped us out last year. They
I
took
know.
on Preston Smith from us, who we didn't want anymore. And they didn't even use him either. He was just sat on the bench and played like 2 plays a game because, I don't even know why the Steelers did that move. It was just to help the Packers out, I guess, to help to get him off the team, make him happy. So they'll be like they're going to want something even extra from a TJ Watt type thing to get him to the Packers. They'll be like, this guy is like a generationally awesome player. Yeah, he's 30 years old or whatever he is now, but
Come back to that, I guess.
but
Yeah, the guy works his ass off. He's
No,
in
I know,
great
but-
shape. No, but I understand. Like people talk about his age versus Max Crosby. You know, Max Crosby's a few years younger and got the big contract and whatever. But like, he's played. He's missed hardly any time. He's been one of the most impactful defensive players during his time in the NFL. Right, versatile, can do a whole bunch of different crap. Like he's not just a pass rusher, although he's great at it. He can do a lot of different things for you. He's got a nose for the ball. He's a great athlete. Plus, he's a great leader and he plays his ass off, which sets the tone for a bunch of these guys who slack off. And on top of that, I'm not like football. Yes, it's a game. Yes, the product on the field and winning is super important. But this is a business too. Like sometimes this shit also makes great business sense. And it just does. Like your fan base would be jacked if you now they might even forgive you for not drafting him in the first place if you brought him in now and he played awesome and you won the damn Super Bowl one of these years. I don't get it. I'd be going to the Steelers and saying, "What do you want? What do we have that you want?" Because I would consider giving up almost anything right now.
I'm not opposed to it. I don't know if I'd give them anything they want.
What's so valuable on this team that you wouldn't give up? What on the Packers currently would you not give up?
For a 30-year-old pass rusher who wants to be paid $40+ million a year, a lot. It's not just that you're getting a player who's great. You're also getting a humongous, ginormous contract that because he's going to want to restructure. That's the whole point. He wants Myles Garrett money.
He's been severely underpaid though. So
He also been injured a couple times lately too. Like I think Max Crosby is worth more to you in that sense than TJ Watt at this point, because TJ Watt has been injured and has, like, even the Steelers were kind of like, who's the other guy they got from the Badgers the last couple of years? They've been playing him a couple times in their kind of taking over the reins as that crazy guy who makes plays. What's his name?
Keanu Benton.
No, not the D lineman. There's another outside linebacker guy.
Actually, speaking of that, we should trade for him too. Can we get him? And
Well, we
TJ
could have just
Watt
drafted him in the first place. Same thing with TJ Watt. Instead of, we don't want to get into all that.
All right.
Stupid Kevin King, but
All right. So Jonathan says Love is he wouldn't give up. That's too much. David will get to your Savion Williams. in a second.
I would
With
give
the
up Love.
receivers.
And the Steelers don't have a quarterback, so
We
got Malik Willis
yet for one more year.
I would trade Love for TJ Watt, but they'd have to give us a first round pick.
There you
Because
go.
it is a quarterback. Like, we'll trade the quarterback. You give us TJ Watt and a first round pick.
All right. Here's my Eka says Van Ness is worth keeping. You said you think we need Lucas Van Ness.
I don't know if I think we need him. I just think he's still got 2 more years on a contract.
I guess you got to explain
3 more years. He's a
why
first
is
round.
he worth keeping? He's only, but you got to make your decision after this year on the option.
Yeah.
Or you have to extend him with a new contract, which if you do that, you're stupid as hell. Like, it makes 0 sense based on what we've seen. So
Rudy will do it though.
well, yeah, he will, because it's his pick and his first round
His
pick.
first round
and
pick. He
can't
always
ever-
pays his
right.
first round pick. Yeah. Except for
He
Savage.
can't ever admit when he makes a blows it on the first round pick.
No, Savage. He admitted he was wrong.
Well, that's because
But it took him a year of giving him the franchise tag or the 5th year option before he let him go, though.
That's because right, and he also had 2 first round picks that year.
Yeah, I know.
But I don't get it. Like, tell me, because Van Ness, if he plays this year, you're making a decision whether you're picking up the 5th year option or you're going to offer him another contract after 1 more year. And the guy has basically been nothing. He's basically not impacted a damn thing on the field, right? I don't get it. Why is he worth keeping? I guess you got to explain yourself, because I don't get it. I don't think he's worth keeping at all. I would package him up. If there's a team that likes him, I would package him up and be like, we can give you a starter at defensive end. Here you go. He's still got he's young. He's got all this potential. He looks great. You like send him a picture with his shirt off and shorts. Great. But otherwise, I don't get it. Let's see. Watt or Hendrickson. I'd be interested. No, not Hendrickson. But
Hendrickson's
Watt,
not good. Hendrickson has a lot of numbers, but he doesn't impact the game. Like when you watch the Bengals play football, he doesn't like. He's kind of like we were talking about the guy who gets pressure and then gets the good PFF grade. That's what Hendrickson is. He'll get numbers, he'll get sacks, he'll get the good PFF grade, but it doesn't actually impact the game. And that's I don't. That's why the Bengals are like, we're not giving you more money, because he's not worth it. He's not like when you watch TJ Watt, or when you watch what's his face that you mentioned from the Raiders. Say his name, Max Crosby.
Yeah, Max Crosby, yeah.
Those guys just freaking destroy shit. Like, not only are they getting sacks, but they're just blowing up plays left. Like they are a menace, right? Mm-hmm. Like they cause issues for the offensive line. They can disrupt the play without even like getting the numbers, right? They don't need to have the TJ Watts. Look at his numbers; they weren't like the greatest last year. Neither was Max Crosby's. They weren't like They didn't lead the league in sacks. This guy did, Hendrickson, right? But when you watch the games, they freaking blew up plays. They stopped drives. They were impact players. Hendrickson is not a guy who makes plays. Like he gets numbers, but he doesn't make plays. And that's a huge difference. And smart GMs are able to see that and would not pay a guy like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the Zadarius Smith effect.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody keeps giving him a 1-year deal, and then they get him on their team, and then and then they realize, and then they let him go. Like, how many teams is Zadarius going to be on? He's going to make the rounds, because after a couple games, you realize, he really doesn't impact our team. He likes to get numbers for himself, but he doesn't impact the game and help us win.
Right.
He just wants to get his sacks and get his numbers.
And that's the Packers. We've talked about it. They don't have enough impact players. We need impact players. And that's what this team needs. And TJ Watt is an impact player. Plus, he's super versatile. Like I said, he's dropped back into coverage. He's made interceptions. He's like pass coverage. He's broken up passes. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's all over the place. Forces fumbles, runs down plays, like all of it. That stuff the Packers do not have a guy like that on their front four. And he would be a welcome addition to that. And I don't care what you got to give up to get him. Make up for your boo-boo and not drafting him in the first place. That's fine. The other thing I was going to point out about Hendrickson and his numbers the last couple of years, if the Packers were to get him, right? If the Packers were to go after him and sign him, his pressures and his sacks would drop off substantially this year. And a big reason why, because the Packers run the ball a bunch and are more of these tighter games, long possessions. Hendrickson got so many sacks because he got a bunch of opportunities in the last few years, because the Bengals are a high-flying offense. They put pressure on the other team. The other team passes a lot, and so you get more opportunities to get sacks.
Yeah.
So, those things need to be considered too when you're thinking about just the numbers. It's also that dude got a lot more opportunities to rush the quarterback, and also in games where maybe his team was either significantly ahead or significantly behind, and, the kind of meaningless sacks at that point.
I'm not saying Hendrickson is a bad player. Eckes.
I'm not either.
I'm saying he's not worth the money he wants. Like, we already have that. We already have a guy we're paying way too much money at defensive end who's not worth it, who does not impact the game and help us win, because he is disruptive and making plays. Clay Matthews was disruptive. Clay Matthews made plays. Clay Matthews was insane. Like, when you go back and watch Clay, like, that's the thing I wish Packer fans. I think we've been so. It's been so long since we've seen a disruptive playmaker on defense. Like Edgerrin Cooper last year, when he made 5 plays, people thought it was like a freaking, like he was the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. Like, go back and watch Charles Woodson and Clay Matthews. They made 5 plays a game that disrupted the game, not 5 plays in a season. Not one play a game to disrupt something and make an awesome play. They made awesome plays all year long. And when you compare Jair and frickin' Gary to Charles Woodson and frickin' Clay Matthews, there is no comparison. And the Packers try to tell you that they're Pro Bowl players and try to tell you that they're great players. And the reporters tell you that they're great players. But the film and watching the game and the impact on the team and the impact toward winning is not the same as those two players who were impact awesome once in a generation type players. Yet Jair and Gary are getting paid like they're once in a generation type players. And they're not. They are just not. Go back. There's highlights. Go watch highlights of Clay Matthews and Charles Woodson, and your mind will be exploded when you watch. And then try to find a highlight package of Jair. Watch a highlight package of Charles Woodson, and then go watch a highlight package of Jair once, and just watch you're gonna be like, holy crap. Same thing. Go watch a highlight package of Greg Jennings, and then watch a highlight package of Devontae Adams. And you tell me who's more dynamic, who impacted the team in wins and scoring points more. Greg Jennings or Devontae Adams? Was it a 2-yard freaking pass that Aaron Rodgers threw to Devontae Adams, or was it a 99-yard bomb from Brett Favre to Greg Jennings at the end of the game against Denver, or whatever, or 70-yard, whatever the hell that was? All kinds of big, huge plays Greg Jennings made. Go watch the Super Bowl. Greg Jennings was a monster.
He ran away from people too. He ran away from people too. Like yards after the catch, not even a comparison for Greg Jennings and him.
So what I'm saying is,
same thing. You can watch other games and watch other teams around the league where you see the difference. It looks different.
Like the 49ers, when you watch Dre Greenlaw and now he's on what team is he on? Denver. Denver signed him. They also signed that safety from the crazy Hufunga, or the crazy guy with the long hair who's like running around making plays. Yeah. Denver signed both of those 49ers players. They're two best defensive players by far. Like the two impact players. They signed them. Like guys who played with their hair on fire and just with nuts, right? That's a crazy team, Denver. Their defense is insane. You want to watch them. Holy crap. And then they got a great offensive line too. So that's a great freaking team to look out for. Like if their quarterback is in the second year can figure it out and they get some playmakers here and there, that's scary. But that's all we're talking about. Like if we have a guy who's making big time money, I want to see him be impact. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we've had one. We have not had a high impact, big time money guy since, I don't know, Julius Peppers, I guess, kind of made plays.
Yeah.
It'd be Clay. I think it's Clay Matthews is the last high price, big time defensive monster type player.
Yeah.
Now we've had guys who made plays who weren't valued, who didn't make a bunch of money, right? Like Mike Daniels was the type of guy who was not considered a great player, but he had impact, but he also had limitations. And we saw that in games where, like, in that playoff game against the Cardinals where he just missed. He just wasn't fast enough to get Carson Palmer, and then he threw that pass in the overtime to what's his face, Larry Fitzgerald, who then ran freaking 25 million yards after we had the 2 Hail Marys or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it was, whatever play it was. I just know Mike Daniels couldn't quite, he was like just out of his reach because he didn't have the physical tools to be a superstar, but he wasn't paid like a superstar. He was paid like a very good player on the team. He was like a Rasul Douglas type player on the defensive line for the Packers at that point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But he still made impact plays, right, with the limitations that he had physically. Where we have guys like Jair and Gary who are physical, probably a step above in the athletic department, right? But they don't make plays. Yeah, they just don't impact the game in any way, like at all. Like zero impact in winning. Mm-hmm. Just watch the plays.
That's what we've been saying, and that's what you talk about. Guys like that are good. Like even if you want to say, McKinney, or you want to talk about like
Eckes is bringing up one right now who I totally disagree with 100%.
Josh Jacobs, and you want to talk about
he's not worth it.
But let's stay on the defensive side. So even if you want to talk about guys that are good players like Mike Daniels was, and some of these guys were that the Packers have had, but they're not like like really big impact players. You need those other guys there, and you get to the next level when you can put in 1 or 2 impact players with them. Then you have a bunch of solid people, and a bunch of solid guys that can make plays, and then you got like a real big impact player that really can mess stuff up, and then it makes those forces plays to those other guys, and it elevates their play too, or their production too. So we've seen it. We've seen what it looks like without impact players on the defensive side in particular. It looks the way it looks for the Packers, the way it's been for the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's where you need the other team to screw up.
Yep.
You have to play safe because you don't have the horses to make plays. So, like, even Jeff Hafley had to do it last year. Now, there were times where he had to scheme things. He had to scheme pressure. He had to scheme quarterbacks into dumb decisions. And he did because he's a good coach. But it wasn't like Evan Williams. Is Evan Williams a superstar? No, but he's good and smart. And that's why he got the start over, Bullard a bunch of times. Because you can trust him to be making plays. Or not making plays, but like to not do anything dumb. Right?
Also, when you invest the draft capital that you did in number 12 in Rashawn Gary, number 13 in Lucas Van Ness, just think about it. Those are supposed to be your two starting defensive ends. You should have a dominant pass rush a dominant defensive line.
Yes.
And they're not dominant. Even if you think, I guess there's, like you say, how many defensive players need around him to be a stud. He has physical tools. Yeah, there are traits he has, but what I'm telling you, just look at his production on the field, and even just in basically in all the pass rush situations, he just doesn't win. He doesn't win. He doesn't win to the outside. He doesn't win to the inside. He doesn't win with power. He doesn't win with speed. He's not big enough to play defensive tackle. He just doesn't have it. He has measurables that make you go ooh and ah, and he's tall and he has long arms and all this stuff, but he's not a football player.
He doesn't have bend.
No, he doesn't have bend, and he doesn't have enough power to be a power guy. He's not a football player. That's what I'm saying. It's just not working. Maybe he could be a tight end. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see. Josh Jacobs, is he worth the money, Ben?
No, we went over this last year.
Okay.
Jordan Love did not. When you watch the film back, a lot of the Packers receivers on plays on routes that would run past 8 yards were not open. And the reason why is because the defenses of opposing teams were not afraid of Josh Jacobs in the running game. Mm-hmm. Now, did Josh Jacobs get 5 yards of carry and get some break off some 8-yard runs? Yes, he did. Did Josh Jacobs against the Eagles break 18 tackles and get a 21-yard touchdown run, which was that was his big, long, amazing play. And it wasn't because of a breakout speed. It wasn't because he, was running away from people. It was because he had to break 18 tackles to get a 21-yard touchdown. And the opposing defenses know this. They are not afraid of Josh Jacobs. He is not an impact player. He just is not. And now the Packers have signed they signed and drafted 2 big offensive linemen to now help open up bigger holes for him to get 5 yards. So maybe now he'll get 6 yards. Awesome. Because then, what's going to happen? Jordan Love's going to want to, and Matt LaFleur is going to call some passing plays, and the drive's still going to end. Because they won't if they gave the ball to Josh Jacobs on every single play, then we'd win every game. But they won't, but they won't run on every single play. I'm not saying Josh Jacobs is a bad player. I'm saying he's not better than Aaron Jones. I can tell you that. He's not as impactful as Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, once per game, would make a play usually it was the second half. He'd come out in the second half of the third quarter, and when we needed something to happen and the offense was stagnant, Aaron Jones would run for a 45-yard gain, or he'd catch a screen pass and take it for 45 yards, and then all of a sudden, boom! Then we were off to the races, and then Aaron Rodgers, of course, would get his touchdown pass because Aaron Jones wasn't fast enough to get all the way to get this touchdown most of the time. And the one time he was when Jordan Love threw him, that Texas route where they finally ran a Texas route with him instead of just having him sit there in the flat like a dumbass and wait, where they actually ran him on an actual route, and he hit him and he took it all the way for a touchdown, and then he freaking, tore his, or whatever happened, strained his
hamstring. Yeah.
Hamstring. Yeah. And then he was out for a bunch of weeks, right? Because he ran so damn fast because he was like, holy shit, I'm catching it and I got a free run. Oh, and he got all excited.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm not saying Josh Jacobs is bad. I'm just saying Josh Jacobs does not it's the same thing we're saying about Rashawn. He's better than Rashawn Gary. I'm not saying that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
but he's very similar to Xavier McKinney. Why did the Giants let Xavier McKinney go? Why did the Raiders let Josh Jacobs go? Why? Why would you let him out of your building? I'll tell you why. Because they know they're not impact players. They don't change. They don't get you wins. They're good, solid players.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt. They are good football players. Both of them are. But they're not superstars. You don't let superstars out the building. Period. You don't like Max Crosby didn't get let go. You don't let him out.
Yeah.
Now the Giants did let Josh, the running back, Saquon Barkley go, but that he had an injury history, and their general manager is an idiot. But he was smart enough to know that Xavier McKinney is just a solid player, not great.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
okay. But
I was impressed. I was impressed with Josh Jacobs' durability last year.
Yes, I would say that. Yeah, he's solid.
I mean, the
He's
dude
he's tough.
freaking took a lot of hits.
Yes.
Was always on the field, kept coming back. I mean, there's value there. No, 100%.
I just think I think he was used too much. I think we need to we need a spark.
Well, they're talking about Lloyd getting healthy. And
He's injured. He wasn't even practicing this week at the OTAs. He was on the sidelines working with the freaking rehab group again. The guy didn't play all year. He was hurt all year, and all of a sudden, the first OTAs that the reporters can go to, he's not even practicing. Lloyd is another dumb draft second-round pick. Who? What is he? It was your third, whatever round he was in. Useless. Another goody, useless pick. Thank God for Tucker Kraft. Finally had a good one, a decent third-round pick. But otherwise, they're not impactful.
Speaking of the Raiders too, and their running back situation, I think Gentry's going to be a monster, and I think they made a really good move.
Who's Gentry?
The dude from Boise State, running back.
Yeah, Ashton Jet. Yeah. Well, that guy. Yeah. Well, yeah, duh. Everybody knew he was amazing. Hey, I would like to get into. Some. I have a topic for whenever you're ready to.
Yeah, go for it.
And unless you have more comments we want to talk about here.
Oh, love a threat running the ball. That's overstated too. You're right, David.
That's everybody's. He's not athletic. No, Aaron Rodgers was way more athletic at this time in his career than Jordan Love is.
100%.
And way more of a threat to move the chains on third down. Defenses are not afraid of him. They're not afraid of Jordan. Like if they were, they would not be playing that cloud coverage. So not only is Josh Jacobs doesn't scare him for giving up big plays, Jordan Love doesn't scare him for moving the chains on third and long. They'll still play that cloud coverage, take away any passes further than 8 yards downfield, force Jordan Love to throw the ball into tight windows, and make decisions that, hey, I got to throw this ball there, and he won't do it. And drive stall, and defenses know it, and they're not afraid of Josh Jacobs, and they're not afraid of Jordan Love running the ball, and they're certainly not afraid of him with pinpoint accuracy downfield because he doesn't have it.
Right. I know I said his name wrong. Gentry is right. I said Gentry. I'm a moron. Whatever.
Oh, it's okay. Whatever his name. Ashton Gentry.
All right. What's your next topic?
Here's my topic. It leads right from Jordan Love. So this week, right before OTAs, was the Green Bay Packers charity softball game.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for the longest time, it was the Donald Driver. Even after he retired, he did it. And then he gave it to Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones did it for a couple of years. And now Jordan Love has done it for 2 years now that Aaron Jones is no longer a Packer. And Jordan Love
was in there too. Remember, the thing went from like Driver to Jordy.
Was that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it went back to Driver after Jordy was gone.
Right. Yep.
Because Driver came back and did it again because there was no other guy on the team that they trusted who had the profile. Yeah, right. They needed a profile guy. And now Jordan Love is the profile guy. Here's what I'm talking about. And it goes back to two things. Number one, Tucker Kraft in his exit interview. Remember how that was a big, hairy deal? He talked about leadership. He talked about ownership. He talked about guys, taking responsibility and how he's going to have to come out and be a leader on the team and step out and make decisions and be the type of guy to whatever. And we talked about why is he saying these things? Jordan Love has been there for 6 years. He's been there 2 years without Aaron Rodgers. He's the guy. He should be the leader. He should be the guy taking over, right? Let's look at this offensive and defensive roster for the Packers charity softball game. In the past, you would see Devontae Adams. You would see Nick Collins, when he was a high-profile guy. Charles Woodson would be there. You would see big-time names on the charity softball. Even when Aaron Jones did it, he would have guys. Yeah, they'd have young guys, but they'd also have veterans because, obviously they probably did it for the leader of the guy, whoever it was, Donald Driver, Jordy Nelson, Aaron Jones, whatever it may be. Here's the roster. I tried to get it. I saw it on Facebook and I could not load it to share it. So I'm just going to say who the roster. I have it in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here, I'll put it on the screen. It's right there. So I'm not making shit up. So here we go. Are you ready? This is the roster. Listen to this amazing guy. The guys who came to Jordan Love's charity softball. Okay.
Okay.
Jordan Love, obviously.
Yep.
Malik Willis. Okay, well, it's a guy in his quarterback room. That makes sense.
Okay.
Julian Hicks. I don't even know who that is. Travis Glover, who is the 8th offensive lineman on the team.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Tucker Kraft, who wants to be a leader. So he's there to try to be a leader. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cornelius Johnson, number 84. No idea who that guy is.
Huh. Okay.
Messiah Swinson, number 48. Must be a tight end of some sort. No idea. He's not going to make the team. So that, how many guys I mentioned here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. Out of those 7 guys,
mm-hmm.
we got the starting quarterback who has to be there. We got Tucker Kraft who wants to be a leader on the team now. And then you got all backups or guys who aren't even going to make the team. Okay, here's the next list of 7 guys. Ben Sims, number 3 tight end. Taylor Elgersma, number 19, who must be a wide receiver who I've never heard of. Amar Johnson, number 46, another tight end who's not going to make the team. Matthew Golden, who's a rookie first-round pick who wants to probably catch passes from the quarterback, so he's there for that.
Yeah.
Sean Clifford, another guy from the quarterback room who's not an impact player.
Sean Clifford?
Might not even make the team.
Right, probably not.
Donovan Jennings, number 67. I don't even know who that is. And Johnny Lumpkin, number 43, a tight end. Those are the offensive players who showed up for Jordan Love's charity softball game.
Wow.
How many of those guys are starters? 2, Tucker Kraft and Jordan Love. And the rest are either backups or guys who aren't even going to make the team. Now let's go to the defense. This is the defensive lineups. Are you ready for this? This is even more sad. Baron Sorrell, just drafted. Kamal Haddon, number 36. I don't know who that is. A fringe defensive back. Jonathan Baldwin. I don't know who that is.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Evan Williams. Okay. A possible starter. Good player. Colin Oliver, just drafted in the 5th round this year. So out of those first 5 guys, you got 2 draft picks from this year. 2 guys, I don't know who they are, and Evan Williams. Now we got Nazir Stackhouse, who was an undrafted free agent rookie this year. Micah Robinson, the 7th round pick this year. Tyron Herring, I don't know who that is. Kalen King, a 7th round pick last year who didn't make the team and was on the practice squad. And a guy named Bugs Brown. I don't know who that is. That's the defensive players on the defensive team. Only 10 guys showed up. Only 10 guys showed up. And the only guy who is a second-year player or even might make the team or whatever, that isn't a rookie, Evan Williams. So that's my big thing. That roster is pathetic. That is the most pathetic charity softball roster I have ever seen in my life. The only starters are Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, probably Matthew Gold, but I don't know if Matthew Gold. He's a first round pick. But I'm not going to count the rookies because the rookies are there because they want to make. Right. They want to, they're probably forced to be there. The team probably is like, you go there. I mean, how many rookies are there? Matthew Golden, Baron Sorrell, Colin Oliver, Nazir Stackhouse, Micah Robinson. I mean, holy crap. So Evan Williams, Tucker Kraft, and Jordan Love are the only guys who are actual somewhat names who showed up for this charity softball game, which took place 2 days before the freaking OTA started, or 1 day before. That's the whole point why they do it. They do it right before OTAs. And all the guys were at OTAs except for 5 guys. Elton Jenkins and Jair Alexander were 2 of them. because obviously we know what the issues are with those two. So my question is this: is that a reflection of one, Jordan Love's leadership, or number two, the type of players the Packers have on their team right now, including all the free agents that they have signed recently?
They talk about getting all these just good guys. That's so important to them.
I mean, Josh Jacobs is supposed to be this awesome guy. Wouldn't he be here for the charity event?
it's a charity
Aaron Jones
event.
would. Aaron fucking Jones would be there, goddammit. Xavier McKinney, this great free agent pickup last year, who's a leader on the team, is he there for the charity softball event? What kind of leader is he? Where's Rashawn Gary? Where's Kenny Clark?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Where are all the receivers who are supposed to be Jordan Love's guys? I did not mention a single guy who's been on this team from last year that played receiver or the year before. I did not. The only receivers are guys who I don't know who the hell they are, or the first round pick from this year, who's showed up because he's the first round pick this year. No Romeo Dobbs, no Christian Watson. Now he's injured, I understand. No frickin' Jaden Reed. No frickin' Dontavian Wicks. No Malik Heath. No Bo Melton. Nobody. None of those guys. Not a single player. No old guy. That's right, Eckes. No old. There's always that old guy who showed up. There's always an Antonio or somebody who Nick Collins would show up, years after he retired because he still wanted to be part of the team.
He was at
Nothing.
practice this last week. He was in there.
Right. He was at. He did. Yeah, I saw the pictures of him next to Jeff
cool.
Hafley.
Yeah.
So my question to all you fans is, and to you, Jace, I don't know. I don't know what this tells me. But when I saw that roster, I was like, that's the roster for the charity softball game? Jordan Love's charity softball game?
Yeah. Weird.
Is that impact? Is that? I think it's both. I think it's both Matt LaFleur. I think it's Jordan Love's leadership. I think it's the type of players they've signed who aren't there. And you might say, Ben, this is a dumb thing. Why are you making such a big stink about this? Because for a team to win, it has to be a team. For a team to go forward, and you have to count on your guys to make plays on the field, but you have to also count on your guys to be good guys and be there for you. And at this point, it looks like the only guys we can count on are Tucker Kraft and Evan Williams. A third-year guy and a second-year guy who aren't really even the starters, really. I mean, Tucker Kraft is the starter, but they didn't want him to be the starter. And they didn't want Evan Williams to be the starter either. They wanted Javon Bullard. They drafted him before they drafted Evan Williams. And they drafted Luke Musgrave before they drafted Tucker Kraft. So those are two guys who have to prove, and they want it, right? That's why they're there. Because they had to prove that they were better than the guys drafted before them, and they are, and they did prove it. And as Packer fans, we're happy they did. What kind of leader is Jordan Love? He's non-existent. What kind of leader is Rashawn Gary? He's not there. If you're the leader of the defense, you should be there. It's a day or two before OTAs, which you showed up for.
Right.
What do you think? Is it all of the above? Isn't it a shocking lineup? That's the lineup, Jason. Yeah. I saw that and I was just like, what the hell is this? This is a bunch of crappy scrubs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're lucky Matthew Golden showed up.
Right.
At least that's the biggest name here besides, the other three guys, right?
Yeah. I know it's different. I know Eckes points out different generation too. But and it's true, younger people, there's different thoughts there, but some of these there's also, I don't think you're overstating it. If you're going to have success in pretty much anything, and it's interesting too, because it's like at my own work, it's like trying to culture build and trying to get buy-in and trying to get engagement from people. And it's getting better. It's not where we want it yet, but it's getting better, which is good. Positive signs. But you got to have that. You got to have people who want to be there for more than just whatever they get paid or are expected to be there for. You got to have people that are bought into not just playing on the field or showing up for practice or whatever in this case, but also bought into being a representative of the organization and what that organization means to the area and the community. And in this case, the state. And when you also factor in for these guys, it's a charity event. Like, come on, man. I get a number of them. They do some of their own charity stuff and they do some donations and whatever. But this is a long-standing team charity event, annual event. I'm sure it's on everybody's calendar, except maybe the rookies who didn't know they're going to be a Packer, right? But all the other dudes who are on the team sure get notified when this is, what it is. It's freaking softball, for crying out loud. Come on.
Well, also, like,
It's
I
fun.
can remember Keyshawn Nixon was there for at least last year and the year before that with Aaron Jones.
Right.
I think Josh Jacobs was there last year. I'm
I think
almost
so, too.
positive Rashawn Gary was there a couple years back. Every now and then, like these guys have been there. That's the other thing that's really shocking to me is a lot of these guys have been there before.
Yeah.
They have homes in town. They're veterans making money.
Right. Yeah.
Why are they not there?
It's weird too that there's not more of the offensive linemen that are
Not a single off. Like, well, okay, that one guy Glover.
right, but I mean the starters, the guys that are on the team.
Yeah, Zach Tom. Where's Zach Tom? Where's Rasheed Walker? Where's frickin'? Where are they?
That's weird.
I mean, Elton Jenkins, he's got an issue with the team right now, but does that mean he has an issue with Jordan Love? He can still go to the charity softball game.
Yeah.
It was a shocking. I know everybody's like, Ben, you're an idiot. You're making a mountain out of molehill, and yeah, maybe it's a mountain out of a molehill. But I think it shows the difference between just a few years ago when Aaron Jones was there. No offense to Jordan Love / Josh Jacobs, the leadership is not there. The leadership on this team is not there, and the reason why is this. I know from being a leader, and sometimes I didn't talk to, like when I was in Statesman, I didn't talk to a lot of guys, especially when I was an older guy, but I could perform. So I had respect. You need to have respect to be a great leader. Like I love Tucker Kraft. He's telling everybody he wants to take leadership. He wants to, but if people don't respect you, you can't will yourself into being a leader. You just can't. You just either you are and you have that ability to do so, or you don't. And Jordan Love, I don't think has the respect of his teammates. I just don't think he does. Even Josh Jacobs, when they asked him about it, he in the offseason, he was like, "Oh yeah, I could see it in practice. He's gonna be great one day, or he's gonna." The guy's making freaking $55 million a year. He should be great now. He's going into his 7th year in the league. He should be great. He's paid as if he should be great. Not he's going to be great in the future. You see it in practice. No. That was 2 years. When he was in his 3rd year, in his 2nd year, when he was backing up Aaron Rodgers, that's when you said, "Oh, I see it in practice. He's going to be great." That was when Devondre Campbell said stuff like that, right?
Right.
Who we all know he was a freaking case too. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting to see that we've seen guys who have been there in the past who are not there now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a dumb thing to talk about, I know, but it's the off season. What else the hell are we going to talk about, everybody?
Well, another interesting thing to bring up, because we've talked about those guys in the past. The Packers have not valued them nearly enough, but they are really guys that probably help generate participation and stuff like that for all different kinds of events. But it's the glue guys. Who are the glue guys? Who are the glue? Like, we know there's not enough strong leadership on this team, but who are the glue guys on this team? I'm trying to think. I can't think of any.
I think the biggest problem is when Aaron
Jones was not just a great leader, he was a glue guy too, because he was such a good person, because he was involved in stuff, all that sort of stuff. We know LP was a glue guy on the offensive line and just across the board because he was a guy that people liked. And who are your glue guys? Where's the glue?
When you sign last season, I think as Packer fans, we would say our 2 best players on the team were 2 guys that were signed in the offseason. So they did not get built up through the program, right? They did not get built up as Packers. They were free agents. They were hired guns.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have that built up loyalty through the years to, and I think Josh Jacobs was at the game last year because I think he was signed and he was like, "Hey, probably Keyshawn was there and those guys are buddies." And they're like, "Oh, I'll be there for you to be a buddy." right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when your two best players are hired guns, that shows that maybe the structure of that glue isn't there. And the respect isn't there. Respect is there for those two guys, probably. But then, of course, Josh Jacobs is talking too much in the offseason, which I think a lot of guys are pissed at him, right? None of the receivers were there.
Mm-hmm. That's
And,
weird.
and Josh Jacobs talked shit about receivers in the offseason, and they were all pissed about it. And none of them showed up for this charity thing, right?
Mm.
I just,
It,
I know it's a dumb thing.
but
I
it
know.
makes you wonder. But it makes you wonder, what are the dynamics? What are the
Yes.
what is this going to look like coming into the season? Because the Packers have held it together for 2 seasons now. You know, it was all fresh and new and exciting with all these young guys coming together and coming up. And we talked about this, especially with all the receivers. At some point, guys are going to want to be looking at, how am I going to get my numbers so I can get paid? And I can't just be about the team all the time. I got to also be about me. And so, what are the dynamics coming into the season? Is this a season that it's going to come apart? And it very well could be. If you don't have strong leadership to anchor stuff together, when those fractures start to happen, it can get messy in a hurry.
Well, it's interesting because, like, let's say you're a young guy. Okay,
Mhm.
we already
Oh,
know.
I wish I was. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're not anymore. But as we said, we got all those receivers. We got a whole bunch of receivers who are vying for numbers to get paid. We got all those offensive linemen coming up next year, right? They're all looking to be paid. Are they looking for themselves to make plays?
Mm-hmm.
Or do they want the team's success? That's another chink in the armor. So you're talking about, there's no leadership from Love. There's no leadership from LaFleur. You got guys who are contracts are coming up in the next year or two when it comes to receivers and offensive linemen. And they have to look out for themselves. And then what do they look at as their veterans on the team? You've seen the Packers sign free agents, 2, and last year and this year, from opposing teams, not keep their guys, go out and get guys to improve the team, not to do it from within. You see Jair Alexander and Elton Jenkins, who are upset because they're not getting for whatever reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are leaders on the team. The leader in the offensive line room is Elton Jenkins. He's the veteran on the team, and he doesn't want to be there because they're moving him around. And that's what the young guys are seeing. There's cracks in the armor. And if the team isn't successful,
Right.
what's going to happen? I don't know. It seems like a weird thing to talk about, but it is freaking May. What else are we going to talk about?
It's a good observation.
Nobody else is talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else is talking about, like I watch Andy Herman a lot. He doesn't talk about the cracks in the armor. Nobody else talked about the charity softball roster. So I'm just showing something that's interesting and different that people aren't talking about. It might be nothing, but we're a different type of show. We don't talk about the same stuff everybody else does. We talk about things that we see, just like when we used to do play-by-play, you and me, and I wasn't, I didn't play football. I don't know anything about basketball, but I would just see something weird that I saw and I'd bring it up and you'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Like, no, usually people don't see something like that because I'm looking at weird stuff like that. And I'd bring up some weird topics. And you'd be like, oh, that was weird, but okay, sure. We'll talk about that. Well, that's what I do. I'm the weird guy who sees weird things and talks about weird stuff.
I mean, I think it's a good observation, and you're right. Not enough people talking about it, but I also think that it could, if things go that way, if things get messy, if things get ugly, it could be these could be precursors. These could be warning signs of that. And yeah, that's concerning, man. I mean, especially when you look at how this works and how it has to work. They got to be a team. They got to come together. This stuff has to be held together. And if the glue is no good, or there's not enough of it, or you don't have a person with a reputation to command that leadership and pull it together, and you got some other things happening left and right, I don't know. It very well could get messy. Maybe, to me, it screams even more reason to get your ass on the TJ Watt train and make it happen. Because if you pull the dude like that in, he would pull it all together.
He will demand respect immediately. as a
100%.
former defensive player of the year, a stud who's making plays constantly. When he says something, that's the thing is we need a guy who's going to make plays, like who you can count on to be a difference maker. We don't have a difference maker. We just don't on defense or on offense. Now, Edgerrin Cooper could become that. We saw flashes. That'd be pretty cool. And on offense, I think Tucker Kraft could be that if they would just give him the goddamn ball once in a while instead of freaking running Josh Jacobs 378 times a game or a year. That's too many carries for a guy, however many carries he had. It was too many.
It is a lot. Yeah, it is a lot.
And then you only throw the ball to Tucker Kraft like 40 times or whatever. I don't know how many catches he had. It wasn't enough. He'd have a huge game, and then the next game they would give like one target. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, there's so many games we were like messaging back and forth when the offense was doing nothing. We're like, where's Tucker Kraft? I think it's Tucker Kraft time. Can we get him involved in the game? And then they do something and they can start doing something. The offense will start moving. It's not that hard to figure out.
It's obvious that Tucker Kraft as a tight end is more dynamic than basically the entire offensive line room or wide receiver room. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Like there is nobody on that team who can put together everything like Tucker Kraft, right? Jaden Reed is flashy, but he drops passes. Mm-hmm. Dontavian Wicks is really good after the catch, and he can get open, but he's dropped too many passes.
Hands.
Christian Watson, super fast, not a great route runner, drops passes. Romeo Doubs, if he falls or bumps his head, who knows? He might get knocked out of the game. Bo Melton, kind of small, drops passes. All those guys drop passes. Tucker Kraft doesn't.
Yeah.
And he's great after the catch. I don't know. It just seems like LaFleur doesn't know what the hell he's doing. They're trying to get, they're too worried about making everybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to start realizing, okay, this guy is a difference maker and we need to get him the ball. And I think they tried to make Josh Jacobs happy by making him the feature of the offense. And that's great. And they did win him some games against bad teams, right? And then Malik Willis helped out when needed by making plays against bad teams. But that offense that they ran with Malik Willis was not work against the good teams. Like it just wouldn't. Like they got lucky, So I just hope Matt LaFleur is smart enough to figure it out because the offense needs to utilize, and maybe Matthew Golden could be a crazy guy. Like, he's first round pick. Doesn't mean he's good. Based on Goody's track record, but maybe he can be a difference maker. Maybe he can be a guy who can challenge the defense and force the defense to look another way. And then maybe that'll open up stuff for Tucker Kraft. But Matt LaFleur needs to stop trying to be, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm an idiot.
Me too. I think you're right. He needs to stop
trying to get everybody involved. It's like, oh, this guy needs to be like, he'll run packages just to get Bo Melton and these guys, Tucker. No, this is a guy. This is a stud. I'm not saying we need a number one receiver. Like everybody's like, oh, we need a number one receiver. No, I'm saying we need to see the guy we have.
Use best players.
Use his strengths and use that guy at his strengths and then go make plays.
And also the other thing that so many coaches do, which is mind-boggling, if they just adopted the late, Bob Hafeman's mentality on stuff, relative of ours, who passed away not too long ago, which is if something's working, keep doing it until they stop it.
That's right.
And sometimes it ain't that hard, man.
It's the Matt Carmody show.
If stuff is working, do it until they make it not work and then do something else.
That's what the Eagles do. That's why they win the Super Bowl.
Like, what the hell? It's not that hard. All right. You talked about we do different stuff. You also talked about our broadcasting history. So recently, many of you may not know this, and I was surprised to learn. We were surprised by a couple things. We'll finish the show on this. Surprised by a couple things recently. Number one, Nico finally got married. Yeah. Congratulations, Nico. Got married.
Nico and Barbara.
Yeah. Nico found himself a woman who compelled him or hypnotized him. One or the other got married. No, he said, I was only slightly offended that he said it's the only thing he's ever been sure about in his life. Wasn't quite sure about his roommate choices in college even, but he was sure about her.
That's a dig at you too, Eckes.
So anyway,
you weren't there, but he was talking smack about you and me and Jason. Well, you're Jason too, but all three of us.
But that happened, and it was in Milwaukee, and it was at this hotel downtown. Blah blah blah. We walk in the hotel. I walk by, and I see this thing about this right here. The Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame is held at this hotel. That's where it's housed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this. I remember hearing about it. I'm not in it. Okay, let me just clarify.
Oh,
I'm
I
not-
thought you. Oh, I thought that's where we were going.
no, I'm not in it. But there were some very cool connections with the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame. It's at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Milwaukee. It's kind of down this one hallway. It's pretty wild to see. So I'm going to show you some photos of what we got to experience there because it's kind of cool. So this is just kind of the entrance. Here, there are plaques up from people that are in it. This, Mike Sullivan, this is a very young picture of him, but this was the radio sports broadcaster that I got to get my chops under. This was the guy that gave me a chance in play-by-play broadcast sports radio. And Mike is in the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he passed away this year too. Jeez, all these guys.
Yeah.
But Mike was a great mentor to me, and also just a dude that gave me a shot when he had no business giving me a shot over anybody else, but he saw something in me and let me call a whole bunch of games for them. Here are these guys. You know them. This was a photo that we found another person that we're both connected to. Ben, I don't know if you. I'll let you explain this one. John Hoffland, also in the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So back at the end of my college career and after you graduated, actually, I don't know if it was after you graduated or whatever, but you got a job at TV 13, WEAU in Eau Claire, and you were a videographer. And then, but I think it was like a part-time like summer gig or something, and they needed another guy, and then you convinced them to hire me, even though I had no experience doing it at all. But I did take visual communications twice, just because I got a C the first time because I didn't show up half the time, and then the second time I got an A because I actually showed up every day. I had a history of not going to class, Ekis knows, from being my roommate for quite a few years there, especially when I lived at the palace was bad. But anyways, John Hoffman was the director of WEAU at the time. He's the guy who hired me, and he's the guy who hired you. And then you were also you were a videographer as well, and then you were also a broadcast guy. You did the sports on the weekends every now and again when they needed a guy to do it because you were a graduate with a degree in broadcast journalism. There you go. Jonathan gets Channel 13. No, there you go. Well, this guy, John Hoffman, was the director of WAU for a long time.
Yeah.
And he was a funny guy. He was a straight shooter. Did not, he'd tell you the way it is. And
also a bit lazy, which helped you out because basically I handed him someone to take the job. And he's like, oh, I don't have to look at all these other candidates and resumes and interview people. Sure. Sounds good to me.
Yep. And it was great. I'll say this. I've said this multiple times. It was probably my favorite job I've ever had because every day was different because you're always going to a different story. Right. And we would film B-roll is what they called it. It was just video to go as the reporters were talking underneath them. And then of course you'd shoot interviews of people and all that kind of stuff. But John Hoffman was a director there for many, many years, a very respected guy. And he's also in that Hall of Fame. So it was very exciting to see that there. So a guy that we both know and worked under. He's passed away, of course, now too, but still a great guy.
We got our picture, with him.
Yeah, so there we are with the picture with him. Yep.
Yeah. Also there is the person who helped me figure out what the hell I wanted to do when I was in college, and that's Henry Lippold. So Henry was one of the most energetic, amazing little guys who I've told this story before and I won't tell it too long, but I'll give you the quick overview. I took my first broadcasting class. I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was changing majors and kind of going in a different direction. I took this broadcasting class. He walks in the room and he's this little tiny, white-haired guy. He was white-haired from when he was in his early 70s, maybe even in his 60s. You never knew how old he was because he was 90 something and he looked almost the same. He looked almost the same.
Still teaching college,
but a ton of energy. He actually created the broadcast journalism program at University of Wisconsin Eau Claire and brought it there. He was the one who created it, brought the curriculum, taught it for 30 years. But our first class, he's talking about doing a story, and he's talking about doing video. And he has this old video camera that very similar to the one Dad always had, and would do like, is the red light on here? Is the red light on? Dad would always say that. just to make sure he was recording. And Henry's like, sometimes, and he would kind of talk in this very energetic, kind of suspenseful voice. He'd be like, sometimes you might want to get a high shot or a high angle shot. And he like jumped up on the desk, like right in the front row where no one was sitting there, but he like literally jumped from the floor to desk, like amazing jump. Like it would have been a good RAS score. I bet Henry had a good RAS, I bet. Anyway, so he jumped on there and he's like, you might want to do that. And he's like, or you might want to get a low angle shot. And he dives from the desk onto the floor and like points the camera up at me and was like, you might want to do that. And from then I was like, I'm hooked. I got to learn from this guy. I'm taking every class he teaches. And that's how I went to get in there. And that's what led me to my career. But Henry was inducted in 2002 into the Wisconsin Broadcaster Hall of Fame. He's a legend, an amazing human being, and taught you to do journalism with responsibility and respect and truth and all the things that it should be. And so when journalism gets a bad rap, it sure the hell isn't because of Henry, because he taught everybody the right way to do stuff.
Yeah. And I was a advertising minor. So I actually had, as an advertising minor, you actually had to take some journalism classes because it was part of the curriculum. And so I had Henry for a couple classes too. And he was a ball of fire. He was probably, you could see from our faces, if I like, he was just an exciting, awesome guy. Like it's times when you have a professor like that, right, that really can turn guide you into what you wanted to do. And it was probably a lot had to do with because of his energy and his leadership and it's a great example of awesome leadership, right? Is what Henry Lippold was. And that's the type of thing, like he's kind of like for football fans, NFL fans, he's probably like the Pete Carroll. You know, he's like a Pete Carroll kind of guy where he's in his 70s, but he had the energy of a guy in his 30s or 20s, right? He's just always going crazy and like getting excited and it made you excited. So yeah, it was really exciting, cool to see all those guys respected and all the people that impacted us when we were doing the journalism thing, or in college doing the journalism thing, and just a little piece of Wisconsin history, and super excited. Yeah, it was awesome.
So that's in downtown Milwaukee. I do have one more with a couple of ones. There's one in here for Sarah too, so I gotta show it. Sarah would like this one. So we got a couple more that were up there. You had Henry. You had Bob Uecker. Of course, you figured he was in there. The Uke in there. The Rock, Larry McCarron's also in there more recently as well. And then there's John. And then one for Sarah. Chuck Ramsey. Yeah. Dad and Sarah will know. Anybody in the Green Bay area would know Chuck Ramsey, legendary broadcaster up in, I think he spent almost all his time in Green Bay on Channel 2. So awesome stuff. Well, anyway, that's what we close with tonight. You get a little bit of Wisconsin broadcasting history, some legends, and I guess I was pretty damn fortunate to learn from people who were that good at their craft and meant that much to Wisconsin broadcasting. So appreciate all of them and everything.
It just goes to show that we're not just a couple of idiots. We actually did take classes with people who were actually great journalists. I know it's probably hard to believe from watching our shows, but at least Jason has professionalism. But he had more. He also had Mike Sullivan, who was more important to him than, I knew John and I had classes with Henry, but you were more involved with all the three of those guys, of course. So you're definitely way more professional than me. But
well, thanks for sticking around for that part. I guess I thought you were leaving. I'm glad you got the Wisconsin broadcaster history as well. Jonathan says he wants to go with the Packers 17-0. Let's go. We'll see, Jonathan. I'm not sure that's happening, but I am sure that we're glad to be back to do a show. It's going to be a tough schedule this year. We'll talk more about it as we get closer. We'll see if anything changes with the Packers. But nice to hop on here, chat with you guys, let you know we're still alive, and also that we are still here to connect with you online. So be good, stay good. We'll catch you again real soon, all right? Take care of yourselves. Everybody, peace out.